Welcome to Ciao Living Italian Style, Part 2 on Padre Pio. I'm Barbara Ann Zippi, your host. Usually, as I said in the prior video, I bring you my adventures in Abruzzo, but I headed a little further south to Puglia, to San Giovanni Rotonda, which is the home of Padre Pio and his shrine. We're taping this in May, which is the 25th anniversary of Padre Pio's beatification, and you're going to see photos of San Giovanni Rotonda, and you're going to see some video and pictures of Elia Stelluto, who knew Padre Pio as a young boy of 8 and started taking photographs of him all the way through to his deathbed. I'm excited to share those memories and our stories about Padre Pio with my special guest today, Julia Calandra-Lineberg. Julia is the Chief Development Officer of the Saint Pio Foundation out of New York. And Julia is a very prolific historian on Padre Pio, on Elia Stelluto. She is the reason that I met him, and I think that the foundation is lucky to have her because her family, the Calandras, as many of you know, have experienced their own miracles along the way. So I would like you to welcome my guest, Julia Calandra-Lineberg, to Ciao Living Italian Style.
As I said, it's always a pleasure being with you, Barbara. How are you?
I'm doing well and really feel blessed to have gotten to meet Elia, who, how old were you when you first met Elia, the photographer?
11.
11 years old.
11
and
years
how
old.
many times have you been to San Giovanni Rotonda?
I was there my very first time in 1969, and we've gone back every year since then. And during COVID, not so much, but every year since then, and on occasions 2 and 3 times a year when I was leading the pilgrimages actively. And we'd become a family.
I believe it. I believe it. To get up to San Giovanni Rotonda and to drive up the mountain, because it certainly is a big mountain.
Yes.
I can't imagine in the 60s how your mother traveled there with a young child, how your father stayed home in Norristown and tended the grocery store, and all the things that along the way that you have experienced. And I got to meet Elia through your association with him. So this month, Elia has a very special, in the month of May 2024 with the beatification, Elia has a very special honor showing his photos associated with your foundation, right? The
Yes.
Saint Pio, I shouldn't say your foundation. Tell me the name of your director and his foundation.
Luciano La Monarca, and he is a dear friend of Elia Stelluto, and through his contacts and because he's highly respected himself in the Vatican, Luciano was able to arrange a special exhibit of Elia's photographs in honor of the 25th anniversary of the beatification in the Vatican for all of the Vatican visitors and dignitaries. And it is one of the highest honors ever given to an artist. So there have been sculptors and painters that have shown, and now a photographer.
And that is so wonderful. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be there to see it firsthand, but actually his works are firsthand available to see at different locations. He has donated different photos to different places.
Yes, there were never before photographs that he dedicated to the Saint Pio Foundation in Tuckahoe that we are making available on display at the different venerations where we take the relics of Padre Pio and bring them to various parishes at the request of the bishop of the diocese. And
you know, Julia, in going through research, many of our people might know that are familiar when I say our. We tape in mainline TV studios in Radnor, Pennsylvania. And on the way down to the Jersey Shore, many people pass the Padre Pio Shrine in Vineland.
yes,
There's one in New York City. There's a statue to Padre Pio. Lots of Padre Pio festivals, that's for sure.
all throughout.
St. Bede's in Montgomery County, they have in the fall every year, they have a Padre Pio festival. So really, Padre Pio surrounds us no matter where we go, right?
That is so true. He was first brought to the United States, knowledge of him during World War II, when the soldiers actively spoke of it and had a story appear twice in the Stars and Stripes during World War II, and writing back to their parents.
Schools were on hold during World War II. These young boys, his friends, were roaming the streets, really looking for food. It was a very poor town. Even when Padre Pio was living there, I mean, it was not an economically developed town.
Yes, I had the privilege when Elia traveled to the United States to have him in my home for the 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whenever, for the length of time that he would stay. And he cooked, his sister cooked, I cooked. We would get together, and you know what it's like in the kitchen with Italians. We would talk. Yes. And he had the most wonderful memories from his childhood that you have some film footage of. And he did say that they were starving during World War II. And when the Americans came, they were frightened, but the Americans were very, very good.
I think his family took him to Argentina for a while, but it didn't last long.
No, he was, after the war, he was 16, and he was in tears having to leave. Padre Pio was the only father that he knew. And Padre Pio did tell him, "No, I will see you again soon, my son." And he only spent maybe a year in Argentina before he was back in San Giovanni Rotondo.
È distrutto a tappeto, perché quando sono arrivati gli americani hanno pulito tutti i tedeschi, hanno fatto, Foggia è stato distrutto, solo un giorno 25.000 morti, solo un giorno. E poi immaginate, qui era pieno di tedesco questa zona qui, perché si nascondevano nei boschi e questa cosa qui c'è tanto. Per i tedeschi era un ambiente buono, perché nelle strade dei boschi si nascondevano loro, perché. E poi quando sono andati via i tedeschi, poi sono arrivati i sfollati da Foggia, sono stati tanti anni ancora, e così poi dopo si è liberato. E così la cosa è migliorata, la cosa.
We're going to leave this rolling for our viewers, but the right smack dab in the middle, last row at the top with the white shirt is Elia, among that photo of the young boys when they were not going to school because of the war.
They were running the streets. They had no established schoolhouse or teacher. It was a very poor village, very poor. And they would go to school only when the teacher would travel up that mountain at you described and gather them together. Notably, you had brought up that there are no girls in the photograph, and it was because the boys and the girls were taught separately. They were all gathered together. And I think it was very prudent, especially in those war years, because they were wild. And Elia said it, we would go into the forests and we would scrounge for food, and we would scrounge, play, hide, and
but at the same time, he got fed by Padre Pio, the boys, but they had to perform the services as altar boys.
They did, and many times the people would go to the friary to see if there was anything to eat, the starving people, and as Elia would describe, if there was one piece of bread, half went to the people and half went to the friars. They gave half of everything that they had or whatever they had to help the people to live.
So he was Padre Pio's altar boy.
He was an altar boy, and he was describing that Padre Pio's Mass would start at 4 in the morning, and that, you know, the altar boys would have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to make their way up that hill, up that mountain, to get to the friary, along with the pilgrims.
Yes, I wanted to point out actually that the woman that was peeking through on that video is my cousin Simona Nobilio in Italy, because without her translation abilities, I am so lucky to have her living there so that she could translate the stories and the visit. It was such a special visit. Actually, I wanted to tell our viewers, when I was there, Elia gave me some of his holy cards that he took, the pictures that he took of Padre Pio. And I would like to offer them that if any of our listeners out there would like to have one of Elia Stelluto's photos of his holy card with it's in Italian, but that's okay. Google Translate, you can put your photo over it and it'll transfer the words, and it doesn't matter. It's a beautiful picture. So if you write me at Ciao Bella Living Italian Style at gmail.com and say you would like a Padre Pio holy card of Elia Stelluto's, I'll mail that out at my expense to you. If you go to San Giovanni Rotonda, and we'll be seeing some more pictures of that. What's wonderful there is that you can pick up a lot of publications, and those publications are in many different languages. They are. Many different languages, and they just show amazing things. Amazing meaning the crowds of people that they fit into the public areas. Elia Stelluto, if you Google him, you maybe find a couple of the CDs that he was involved in, along with a couple books that he wrote. I believe one is in English and 2 are in Italian. And then if you're looking for a really good story on Padre Pio's life, this is one of my favorite books. What do you think, Julia?
Yes, that author, C. Bernard Ruffin, is the Protestant minister who adored Padre Pio, wrote one of the most beautiful books. He had dinner at my home with Elia so that he could finish the last update of Padre Pio.
So you met the author of this book?
Yes, we've been friends also for years.
Julia, you are an amazing woman. You know everybody connected to Padre Pio.
And I know when Reverend Ruffin passed away, I had received a telephone call and spoke with his brother and offered condolences and listened to his brother about how much Bernard Ruffin loved Padre Pio. Talked about him every day. And what a privilege for me to have these 2 titans of Padre Pio at my dinner table.
I know.
And Elia helped him with correcting stories and updating the very last issue of his book.
Well, I also want to tell our listeners out there that if you go to the ItalianAmericanHerald.com and you go to the May 2024 digitized issue. There's a story in here on Elia, and also pictures of my visit to his studio. So it's free on the website that you can go in there and check it out. So, this was really a special place. This is going to where his body is, Julia.
Yes, you were there in the winter months because
January.
when Easter comes, Padre Pio's remains are returned then to the big Basilica Saint Pio. But in the winter, with the winds on top of that mountain, it is so difficult for pilgrims to get to the Basilica Saint Pio and to descend into the crypt area that they bring him here and to his final resting place, the original final resting place.
You're right. It was such a special place. I was there. It was February. I couldn't believe how up close I got because there were no crowds of people when I went. It was February.
Yes.
And I couldn't believe that you could see and how beautifully they have him laid out. Now, when we look at this picture, how beautiful. Mm-hmm. When we went to visit Elia, my cousin Simona, her mother, my hostess Antonietta, and Simona's sister Carla, we went to a hotel that Elia told us to go to for lunch. That was his nephew. And there was a Rotary meeting, and a gentleman got up to talk about how they recently exhumed and opened his body to be reconditioned for this new 25 years, I guess. And it was like, what an interesting day to be in a restaurant that man got up and was given the microphone to talk about his experience in 2023 with Padre Pio.
It is. There's nothing is an accident with God. You know that. So you were meant to be there at that time and meet whom you met at that time and share it. After all, no one would know those experiences unless you were able to share them with us.
And you know, Julia, you and I both, you more than me, have been around Padre Pio's miracles for years. When he was living, he was performing miracles, but now that he's passed, he's still performing miracles. Every day he's performing miracles.
That was his promise. I will do more for you from heaven than I could ever do on earth.
So you're the perfect person that Luciano could have picked to be associated with the Saint Pio Foundation. You have an exciting movie coming up.
There is a docudrama that the Saint Pio Foundation is producing in conjunction with EWTN. I believe it will air in September, beginning on the 14th, exclusively on EWTN for several months before being made available to the public. And it is exciting. It is beautifully done. And we have so many, it's amazing to see how Padre Pio has touched the lives of many in Hollywood. For example, Joe Mantegna is participating in this as the overall narrator. Gary Sinise is participating for the segment on Padre Pio and the Americans. Our CEO, Luciano Lo Monarcas, is performing the song of Padre Pio that was written in 1968 upon his death and never published.
Wow.
So it'll be heard
and
for
he
the
is
first
a
time.
professional opera singer, I understand.
Yes. I was just attending an event for the 10th anniversary of the foundation, and during the Mass, Luciano performed the Panis Angelicus, and it is so moving that it brought tears to the eyes. I had a non-Catholic gentleman who was with us, with my husband and I at this event, and he was stunned. He said, I'd never heard anything so beautiful.
You know, two things I have to say that I first was introduced to Padre Pio through Paul and Betty Walsh. Yes. I don't want to, a show to end without saying I met you through Betty Walsh and her miracle son Paul from Ridley Township. So we can't let my good wishes to Betty and Paul Walsh for being in my class at Delaware County Community College and meeting that way. It was such a small, intimate way. And from there, that led me to Bartow with them, and that led me to my relationship with you. It's funny how Padre Pio just pushes his way into where he wants to be.
Yes, he does. And this is the month, actually, of Paul's great miracle. He came back to life, was resurrected, if you will, in April, on Easter Sunday.
After a head-on car accident into a pole, yes.
And his brain having been crushed and never, ever supposing to survive. The doctors gave him no hope, and he's fine.
And he's a wonderful man today. And, you know, but we don't have to have such drastic results in a miracle, though, today, Julia, right? Miracles could be the littlest thing that he grants you. It's just that we just forget to give credit for them and to say, that was a miracle.
Well, that you have Bernard's book. He always said, Padre Pio himself said, I do not believe in miracles, because everything is a miracle. Everything is a gift from God.
Yes, he's been very good to me. Here, this part is the outside to the left of the church, the new church.
That's the basilica, and you can see the long expanse you would have to cross.
This is my cousin Roaldo on one of my other visits to San Giovanni Rotonda, and it was too cold and windy in February to walk all the way down there, because we had seen Padre Pio's body that we just showed you earlier in his winter home, for lack of a better word. But this was my zoom lens, because there was no way my new hip was going to get me down.
No, and
down there, and it's packed with people in the summertime that you can't even walk. It's amazing.
That is true. And I think it's wonderful that they have that type of charity and understanding that people would never be able to see their beloved.
But Mass is performed outside. You know, so that all people in that area could see it. And I didn't hear the bells. Have you ever heard those bells ringing? I wasn't there to hear the bells ringing, but what powerful image of a sculpture of bells right on that plaza. And they were just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. And again, here we go with the picture of the hospital dedication.
Well, this is magnificent as the dedication of Padre Pio's hospital, because this in itself is a miracle. They will emphasize this actually in our docudrama of how this actually came about, because the hospital came about with funds from the United States. And there were several major players that helped get funds, and one of them was Fiorello LaGuardia, who was the mayor of New York. And he was originally from Foggia in the Puglia region, and this was something that he helped to spearhead.
Were involved with that hospital. Actually, people from all over the world.
All over the world, yes.
Yeah, and when even the hospital was built, there was nothing like an Airbnb, and they certainly didn't have a town of hotels. They have a radio station in the town now. They have a TV station in the town. They have hotels that are bed and breakfasts, all just to welcome the people that feel they have to go pay a visit.
Yes,
to him there.
That they went to see him there. And as you know, Padre Pio was born in Pietrelcina, and that's going to be our next show, because you will go to Pietrelcina.
Oh, Julia, what are you going to get me into next?
The mayor of Pietrelcina, the Onorevole Massone, is a member of the Saint Pio Foundation's board of directors, and we are working on helping to refurbish Pietrelcina, because Padre Pio's magnificent gifts, his spiritual gifts, actually began to manifest in Pietrelcina, and it was there in Pietrelcina that he was prepared for what he would undergo in
As a
San
young
Giovanni
boy, he
Rotondo.
grew up
As an
in that
infant.
town.
Yes, he was
yes.
born there, and he offered his first Mass there. He went there after his ordination. So it's a magnificent chapter in Padre Pio's life before San Giovanni Rotondo that you so brilliantly covered. So you will be, on behalf of your viewers, visiting the Campania region so that you will meet the Onorevole Massone
I better
and
get
see our
Simona
work.
ready to travel with me, and we'll hit the road
You will.
in Italy. It's been an unbelievable adventure to be able to spend some time over there post-COVID in a way where I had never had the opportunity to before. And when I think I just emailed you and said, is there any possibility that you could open the door for me to visit Elia in his hometown? It was like a pilgrimage for us to make that trip. It took about 2.5, 3 hours from the village of Loreto Aputino, where my family lives. We did it in a day. We did it in a day, and I always thought that my little town in Abruzzo, my grandmother's village, was on a mountain. And my family, Italian family in Italy, is like, no, this is a hillside. It's a hillside. It's up from the Adriatic Sea coast where Pescara is, and Montesilvano. And when I went to San Giovanni Rotondo, I learned what a mountain is and what a hillside is. Now, this village is on a hill. That is on a hill. San Giovanni Rotondo is on a mountain. And so it amazes me that in the early 30s, 40s, when Padre Pio's reputation was budding in Italy, it amazes me how people got to the top of that mountain when there weren't roads and development. And I mean, even now it's stone and cobblestones and a lot of it's not an easy terrain for people that make a pilgrimage there. It would be because some of them have health issues.
And even with all of our modern conveniences, the weather still rains, and the mountain with rock slides and mud slides, many times the roads are cut off for days until they can be cleared, and that's even today.
But years ago, when they didn't have construction and all, was amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And so I would love to thank you for sharing Elia with me, getting me to know Padre Pio. And I wish you the best of luck in the new foundation.
Thank you.
And your director, your founder's work. I'm so excited that you'll be professing Padre Pio's message.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
To get in touch with you, or to get the latest news, they could get your newsletter, right?
Oh, it's a free newsletter. They just go on the website and sign up, and then right in your email box, you'll see everything that's happening, like the new chapels that are being placed strategically throughout the United States, housing Padre Pio relics, so that people in Middle America, I think they call them the flyover states, will have
they'll get
access.
to see this on YouTube, so that's good.
Yes.
That's good. So if they go to your website, they could sign up for the newsletter and keep abreast of all of that. And I know you're going to privately nudge me on my journeys through Italy,
yes,
and where I should go next. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank our listeners. I want to thank Kevin, our producer here, my director actually, for all his miracle audio, video, visuals that he has gotten to show you interspersed with the show today. And until we meet again, I hope that Padre Pio's small little words are pray, hope, and don't worry. So little, such a little prayer to be able to say, but it's so true. So if you haven't found any Padre Pio in your life, Google him for a little bit, see what comes up, and let us know. Keep in touch with us. Maybe we'll be telling your story one day on Ciao Bella Living Italian Style. So until we meet again, Ciao Bella.